Welcome to the Church Answers podcast. I'm here with my dad, Thom Rainer, the name that you recognize. And then if you don't know me, my name is Jess Rainer. I have the
I
privilege.
recognize the last name.
I recognize the last name, but you can call me the third son, also the favorite son, even though they won't admit it. I tend to I take that title, and yet my two older brothers have yet to really try and challenge me on that title. But I'll take it. So Thom Rainer, Jess Rainer, we're so glad you joined us on the Church Answers podcast today. We had a previous episode where we talked about the nuns, the NONES, and we talked about some of the religious demographic changes that are happening within that category that deals with religion. And we're going to continue that conversation. We're going to be looking at it just in a slightly different way. We're going to be looking at the atheist and agnostics. We're going to look at those as well. But before we jump into it, I want to take a minute and thank one of our sponsors, Cheney and Associates. They are an amazing accounting firm that focuses just on the local church. This is not one that they do some things church, some things not church. They are just for the local church. And so if you are looking for someone to help you with your church finances, someone who understands how churches work, understands the language, understands what you are wanting to accomplish through your ministries, go check out Cheney Associates. They want you to lead your church, and they're going to do that. They're going to help you do that by handling the numbers. Decades of experience helping churches all across the country. So go to CheneyAssociates.com/church answers and check them out.
Absolutely. Love them folks.
They're great. They're great. So the big question we have in front of us today is, where have all the atheists and agnostics gone? I'm sure there's a song that you probably can think of that is off that title. Where have all the atheists and agnostics?
The song was
gone?
written in the 1960s.
I was
covered
not
and
asking.
popularized.
I wasn't saying you need to say the song, but here we go.
Peter, Paul, and Mary, a folk group.
I'm sorry,
and the
listeners.
song was a Vietnam War protest song called "Where Have All the Flowers Gone." Read the words; they're pretty profound. I won't get into it. And so when I wrote my first fiction book, I called it "Where Have All the Church Members Gone?" A fairly recent book at that. But the title does have a meaning, but this is not about a 60s protest song about the Vietnam War. But let me just say the soldiers gave the flowers to the girls, and then the soldiers went off to war, and the only thing that you can see about the soldiers are the flowers at the graveside.
Okay. All right.
That's the, you're so, you just have such a love for those who give to our country through the military. This one would make you just break down in tears. So
okay.
go listen to it.
Well, okay. Well, I was going to say, I'm sorry, but now you redeemed that one. You redeemed that one. Ton of respect for our military. I'm so thankful for all they do for our country and have done in our country. In fact, we'll be coming up on Memorial Day pretty soon, and we'll be remembering those as well. But okay, so I was getting ready to apologize to all the listeners and say I'm sorry for asking the question. I really didn't want you to answer it, but you redeemed that one. So
okay.
But back to the question: where have all the atheists and agnostics gone? We're looking at this category, and maybe just really, really fast, because you mentioned this last podcast where we talked about the nuns. The NONES, the nuns, the atheists, and agnostics make up, if I heard you correctly, make up a demographic category. Those three together, is that correct?
That is correct. They're usually called the nuns together. Okay. One group is nothing in particular.
Okay.
And many people think those are the nuns, but the nuns as defined are that nothing in particular group. When, what religious preference do you have? Nothing in particular. That's a nun.
Okay.
That's one of the nuns. The other nun is an atheist. Atheist means, if you ever see in a word like this, it means atheos, no God. It means I don't believe in God. Mm-hmm. And then there's agnostics. There's an A word again. Gnosis, from knowing. I don't know if there's a God or not. Mm-hmm. I just can't say one way or another. So you have the non-affiliated, you have the non-believers in God, and you have the uncertain if there is a God. Those three groups or three categories make up the singular category called the nuns, NONES.
Okay. So let's look back over the past 10 years, in particular from 2015 to 2024. And what we've seen with atheists, in particular atheists in America, the number of atheists in America has been consistent at 6 or 7%.
And note what Jess just said. Every single year of those 10 years, it was either 6 or 7. It was never 5, never 8. It was always 6 or 7. Any change over the last decade has been statistically insignificant. It is one of the most consistent demographics that I see in the American landscape, not just the religious landscape, but the American landscape, right around 6 or 7%. And you asked me in the last podcast, is there anything that I would have looked back on and I thought it would have been this? I would have thought atheists would have been growing in number. I mean,
Okay.
that was kind of the popular viewpoint. Oh, those who don't believe there's a God, that number's increasing. There were movies about it, and there were books written about it, and some of the best. Well, some of the books on apologetics were about reaching atheists because they're going to be the growing demographic. Nope, it's about the same.
So you know me, I love to ask the why. I think why? I don't know if that was a thing growing up for me as a kid.
Oh my goodness!
Okay.
Why can't I go there? Why can't I do? Oh my goodness! I mean,
I like to know the why behind things.
the three brothers. Sam was always pushing. I want to do this. I want to do. I mean, he was just adamant. You were always asking the question why. Art didn't say anything. He would just sneak off and do it.
And so today I want to know the why behind things. So what tell me why that's significant. 6 or 7%. I mean, it's flatlined. Is that just they're there but they're minimal? Like, if I'm a church leader, help me with that. Like, what does that mean for my ministry?
Well, we actually are going to cover this in a little while, but
Okay.
I'll just give a preview. Atheism is not a sticky category.
Okay.
It is hard to remain an atheist. It is rare for someone to remain an atheist.
Okay, so it's a revolving door.
That's one of my points. It is a revolving door.
I didn't know this. Sorry.
Yes.
I should have looked ahead to what to some of your notes. But this is okay. That makes sense. So it's something that people go in, they go out. They go in, they go out. Okay.
And there are very, very few people there. You'll always find exceptions. So anytime you say something, somebody say, well, I knew someone. There are very few people who've been atheists for 10 years.
Okay. That makes sense. Okay. Thank you for answering my why behind that one. Let's flip over to agnostics then. So same time frame, 2015 to 2024. The number of agnostics has stayed at 6%. So you have atheists
year at 6%.
Atheists at 6 or 7%, but Shane, it never changes. Always 6%.
Right. So every year, the total of atheists and agnostics of this decade, the last decade, has been 12 or 13% every year.
Interesting. Okay. I think it's fascinating. You're talking about a 10-year span where it's literally at 6%.
Yep. And I consider agnostics a transition of atheism, or I'm almost there, but not quite. It's same type of logic. I don't know if there's a God. I have my doubts. That's agnosticism. And then I know there's not a God. That's atheism. In many ways, the values and the beliefs of these two groups are so similar, but we have to classify them differently because one group insists there is no God and one group says, I'm just not sure.
Okay. That makes sense. So if those who are looking at, what do I believe? They're saying, well, first, I don't know. And then eventually they say, well, there's just no God.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Not all agnostics become atheists, and not all atheists slide back into agnosticism, but there is some of that.
It almost seems like it's a funnel or a pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you grew up religious, and your first step. I mean, the big word recently in past years has been deconstructionism.
Deconstruction,
and maybe that's a little bit of like, well, I don't know, and now it's like, no, there is no God, and I'm going to live like it. But what you're saying, which leads us to our third point here, and I got a little ahead of you unknowingly. I'm sorry about that. Is that the data suggests that each category is a revolving door. So it almost sounds like I'm gonna take your analogy and maybe I'm gonna butcher it. Maybe I'm gonna make it better. You can tell me. It almost like you have agnostics, and they're more of the escalator,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then when you get to the top, it's a bit of the revolving door with atheists.
yeah.
Is that fair?
I'm,
Ish.
I'm not.
Nah,
I'm not
I tried.
ready to say that there's going to always be a transition from one to another, or it's
Okay.
going to be the most natural. I'm just going to simply say that they are so similar in their values and even their beliefs about God that if I think at some point it wouldn't surprise me if secular data scientists say, let's just call them one. You know,
Hmm.
they either don't believe or they're not sure. Let's call them one or the other.
Okay.
But I think there's a big distinction between these two, biblically, theologically. Is
Sure.
there a God? Is there not a God?
Yes. Yes. Well, yeah. Making the claim there is no God is, yeah.
You know, that's one of the biggest leaps of faith you could ever have.
It really is. Yeah, to say someone's like, I just don't know. I at least, to me, that has more intellectual integrity than to say there is no God. Um, so that's my viewpoint. But yeah. But the main point we're looking at is it's a revolving door.
Hmm.
These, if you group them together, anywhere from 12 to 13% every single year, it doesn't increase. It
Nope,
does. It doesn't last.
it doesn't last. It is not unusual for the number to be weighted toward the younger adults. I haven't looked at each of the 10 years, so I'm not ready to make that claim. But regardless, it doesn't stay consistent. I mean, I'm looking at a trend that is taking place. I wrote about it in a book that's coming out. And of course, most people recognize the title that I didn't write, The Anxious Generation, and the rest of the book's called The Anxious Generation Goes to Church. And I cited so many former atheists and agnostics who still aren't Christians, and but they believe that Christianity is a close belief to where they are.
Hmm.
Elon Musk is the example. He calls himself a cultural Christian. He's not a Christian by his belief system, but he would have never said that about himself. Jonathan Haidt, who HIDT, who wrote The Anxious Generation,
Mm-hmm.
he has been an atheistic Jew, but now he's advocating that people go to church,
Mm-hmm.
and because he sees sociological value in it. That's why we're seeing some of that revolving door. People are recognizing, one, it's hard to say there's no God just by looking around, and secondly, we see the good that can happen not only to culture when there is a church, but to individuals when they participate in a church and
Yeah.
they're being intellectually honest about it. But this revolving door, again, my evidence is anecdotal. Uh,
Right. Right.
I can't pick up Burge's data. I cannot pick up the information from the data that he got, which is the cooperative election study. I cannot look at that data and say I know it from that data, but I can say from a lot of information that we have anecdotally, it is probably a revolving door.
Yeah, and that makes more sense than saying the same 13% is this year's the same 13% from last year.
Right.
You know, that the it would have the number would have to change if that was the case. Either it would go down or it either have to grow or shrink one
Right.
way or the other. Because it's not like people are set and then they don't ever change their views for 10 years and it's the same 13% over 10 years and they're marking the statistical category. So there does seem to be, and I think you mentioned it too, that there's probably an age factor that goes into this. Particularly, if a young adult grew up in a cultural Christian home, then they're out and they don't want to be a cultural Christian, they're going to jump over to say, oh, I'm agnostic, I'm atheist. But then as they get
Probably
older,
agnostic
yeah,
at that point, but
right,
maybe move on to atheism.
yeah,
A lot of the atheists come from families of atheists. So a lot of the agnostics come from families of Christians or churchgoers.
okay, okay. That makes sense. Well, yeah. Well, we've seen that change in cultural Christianity, for sure, where people are not going to church anymore. But we want to see that change.
Yeah,
We here at Church Answers, we're all about reaching the community. We're all about making sure that these atheists, these agnostics, hear the gospel of Jesus Christ. And one of the great ways to do that is to reach your community. And one of the great ways to do that is to partner with Upward Sports. Go to upward.org/church answers. Upward Sports is the world's largest Christian youth sports organization partner with lots of churches. They offer tons of different sports, from basketball, cheerleading, soccer, flag football, volleyball, baseball, pickleball, and running
Pickleball.
for adults. So pickleball is super fast growing in the United States, and so with Upward, it is super fast growing as well. They want to help your church start a pickleball ministry. Believe it or not.
I've just listen to you say those words. It's like a pickleball ministry. Who would
Pickleball
have ever
ministry.
thunk it?
Hey, pickleball, people play it. They're agnostic, they're atheist, they're Christian, and so what a great way just to meet someone on the court. There's nothing better than talking religion as you're slamming one in the kitchen. By the way, that's a pickleball term, Dad. Didn't know if you know that or not, but
Nope, I did not.
it's and I don't know the rules. I don't know if you can slam in the kitchen. I'm trying to remember the rules. So I know there's a kitchen when it comes to pickleball. I don't know all the rules. So maybe I just offended some pickleball people and they're like, he has no idea what he's talking about. I may have said it wrong. I play it enough. I don't remember all the rules, but it's fun. Anyway, it's a great way to reach your community. So go check out upward.org/church answers. See what they can do for you. See if you can begin to use a sports ministry to help reach people in your community. And who knows, maybe an agnostic.
All right.
Maybe an atheist.
Since we're on statistical trends, sociological trends, since we're talking about pickleball and upward sports, let me just give you some data points really quickly. Okay. Participation grew 223% in pickleball between 2019 and 2023. 223%.
It's a lot.
In 2023 alone, there were 13.6 million pickleball players. That number was a 52% increase over the previous year, doubling participation in 2022. Growth is occurring at all age groups. The fastest growing segments, under 24 and 35 to 44. It's not the senior adults. And it's a boom. It is an absolute boom. So this is an opportunity to reach these people we're talking about.
Yeah. Yep.
If you build it, they will come.
Get a pickleball court. You got a parking lot. There's portable things you can do to create pickleball. Imagine on a Saturday morning, you have 5 or 6 courts in your parking lot. People are driving by in the community, and they're seeing, like, why are they playing pickleball? And they look it up online. They look up your church, and they see you have a pickleball ministry. They come, they find out more, and boom, they're at church on Sunday. Just create the pathway for you. I could see it now.
Hey, and if you did not listen or watch our interview with Tani, who is a children's minister, 6'5" children's minister named Tani in Texas, go back and watch that video or listen to that podcast.
It's a good podcast.
And see what he's doing with pickleball and what's happening at his church.
All right, well, back to our question. Where have all the atheists and agnostics gone? Let's say they come to the pickleball ministry, come to the pickleball tournament on a Saturday afternoon, and you have an opportunity to share the gospel with them. How are they going to respond? Obviously, you don't know the work of the Holy Spirit, but statistically speaking, do they have a particular way they could respond?
We know this clearly, and I put here anecdotal, and really I should not. I just should have said we have good data, because there's a recent Church Answers research project where we ask questions about receptivity to the gospel. And one of the things that we see in that is the people are telling us that they're more receptive to going to church. That's not the gospel, but that is the entree for many to the gospel. And so there's this collision. Maybe I should change my metaphor. There's this perfect storm of events that is taking place where churches have a great opportunity to reach the community like they never have before. So yeah, this whole evidence that more and more people are receptive to the gospel. I don't know when I wrote the book called The Unchurched Next Door. It was a long time ago. It's a Zondervan book, but I sent out a team of 15 researchers across the United States, actually sent them out to go interview people who just go interview people. And according to their answers, we classified them on the Rainer scale. That's pretty arrogant of me to name a scale after me. From a U1, very receptive, to a U5, highly resistant. You know what, Jess? The most highly resistant were the atheists in the interview. What was their number in my study 2 or 3 decades ago? A little above 5%.
Hmm. Okay.
In my study,
Okay.
going out and interviewing people, and the way they answered it.
And you were pretty close to that 6% there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. But going back to the question, the point though, most atheists and agnostics are going to respond positively to a relationship with someone who is a Christian.
Exactly.
So there, I guess there's a little bit of thinking of this hostility between an atheist. I would say more atheist and Christian, but maybe there's this thought of even a hostility between agnostic. But the reality is they're going to respond positively. You're going to have you're going to have people all across different viewpoints that are just going to have negativity. And you're going to have
Oh, they're going to respond more negatively to your political viewpoint than to your religious viewpoint.
right. So when it comes though to potentially sharing the gospel, potentially reaching someone, just because you're a Christian doesn't mean they're going to write you off.
Nope.
And so
It
we've
does not.
seen this. So we're seeing, and if you go back to again our previous episode, we talked about the nuns. Something's shifting. Something's changing overall with the nuns. We're seeing that agnostics, atheists, they're not growing statistically. And there's a receptivity that if someone knows you're a Christian, they might respond positively. The data suggests that. So there's something happening within this demographic.
And Jess, just to add to that, and forgive the self promotion, but I've mentioned the book, The Anxious Generation Goes to Church, which is about to be released. That is another thing that is happening about the church. Parents are going to want more and more to bring their kids to church because the church can take them away from the digital world and provide them something positive. We are seeing that as well.
Our student ministry is growing quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And we've adapted our student ministry because of that, because of Gen Z, and so it's working. I mean, it's we're seeing some good growth. This leads us all to our fifth point we wanted to cover today: the total of all the nuns. So this is nothing in particular, atheists and agnostics. The total of that category, which we call the nuns, the NONES, is at its lowest level since 2018.
And
That's significant.
and it could be going down. We will be watching it closely because that total actually went down in 2025, or is it 20? It's 2024. It actually went down, and I would not be surprised to see it go down again in 2025. Something is happening. I've been looking at churches, religion, data since the mid 80s and following it closely. And what is happening, I have not seen before. And I'm just simply crying out to churches and church leaders. Now is the time. I'm not going to get into this, Jess, because it'd take us down a path that would be too long, and I don't want to go there. But very simply, I'll say this: a church that has one evangelistic event on its calendar is going to be in about the top 20% of evangelistic churches. By the time you get to 3 or 4 events a year, just and some kind of evangelistic emphasis a year, your church is going to be in the top 5, even the top 1% of evangelistic churches in America. And that's an event. That's not a necessarily a lifestyle or anything of that. It's just some kind of emphasis. By the time you do it once a quarter, man, the data is overwhelming and you just cannot refute it.
Yeah. So if you listen to the previous episode and you're listening to this episode, the big takeaway is go mobilize your church to start reaching people. Obviously, that's our calling. That's the Great Commission. We're to do it regardless. But from a demographic, cultural standpoint, if I could bring those two together, from a demographic standpoint,
You can.
there's an opportunity in front of us right now.
Absolutely
in front of us. And so I know at my church we're actually having this conversation now. We've started something. Here's something super small. We've started re-emphasizing this. We have invite cards on the back of every chair, and so every week, except Easter, I didn't do it. But every other week, I'm telling people, go just grab that invite card and take it with you and go invite someone to church.
I'm glad you
small.
did that. You know, I was down to 2 from the last time you did it.
Okay. I did not know that.
I don't know how many I took. I took
Okay.
a lot, but
Okay.
I was down to 2.
Okay. Simple thing. Just take it. And we have pins with our church logo and name on it. I say, just take a pen and leave it. Like when you go, doctor's office or restaurant and you sign it, just leave a pen. Just start doing things. You just never know. And so as a church, start thinking small, but also maybe start thinking big. We got plenty of resources here at Church Answers that can help you. Just go reach the community.
Hey, and before you thank Cheney one more time, I love those folks. Just keep in mind what we repeat at our church, the church at Spring Hill, every single week in unison. The harvest is great, but the workers are few. Pray to the Lord who's in charge of the harvest. Ask him to send more workers into his field. I know this translation is a little bit different than the way we do it, but still,
right.
That's the same way.
Yep. Pray and go.
Yep.
Well, before we go from this podcast, from this episode, we do want to thank Cheney and Associates one more time. They are doing some amazing work with local churches. They are accountants who speak your language, understand your mission. They want you to help. They want to help you gain clear financial insights to guide your ministry decisions with confidence. They give you accurate, real-time information when it comes to your finances. They will help you. They know that you want to lead your church, so let them handle the numbers. Go check out CheneyAssociates.com/church answers. Stewardship matters. Your time is precious. They can help with both. Go give them a call. See what they can do for you. Well, Dad, these last two podcasts for me have been very encouraging. It's such a good reminder that there is a world that is desperate for truth. There are generations that are hungry to know the truth. And we know, as John 14:6, we know who is the truth, the way, the truth, the life. We know that no one comes to the Father except through Jesus. And so I hope if you listen with us these past two podcasts, we've asked two important questions here at Church Answers. What is happening with the nuns? And where have all the atheists and agnostics gone? Well, the answer is they're out there, but they need to be reached, and there's a great opportunity in front. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you can go out after listening to these past two episodes, go out and begin to think about how you can reach your community. It's what it's all about, reaching people for Jesus Christ. So thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Church Answers podcast. Again, my name's Jess Trainer. I'm here with my dad, Thom Rainer. We had a blast, and we look forward to catching you on the next episode.